this up a little. There we go. It's because I'm wearing heels. It's the one of the 2 days a year I wear heels. The other day is the spring concert. Hello, I'm Miss Sanford. Behind me is the wind ensemble. Can we have a round of applause? That number that they just played is pretty difficult. So, if you notice, the trumpets were red-faced during that. That's because, especially for the brass and the trumpets, that's kind of like a chop killer. So they asked that I talk a little bit between the songs so they have time to recover. So I normally try and do this a little bit later on in the concert so you don't have to hear me talk right off the bat. You get to hear them making music. But because of the fact that we just had a number that's a chop killer for those guys, I want to right now take a second to recognize some of the students that we had that are kind of going above and beyond the normal band student requirements. Any of the students who tried out for All South Jersey, can you stand up? So, yes, I said try out, yes. So Joe, Brandon, Pam, Devin, yeah, Maisie, yeah. So this year, they're probably confused because this year we didn't actually have any students make All South Jersey. But this is actually, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending upon how you look at it, probably unfortunately for these guys because it was probably a little bit more frustrating. A lot of these guys came very, very close. Their scores were maybe like 10 points lower, 3 points lower than the people that did make it in. So even though they were probably a little bit frustrated, I know they were a little bit frustrated, some were more frustrated than others. I know that Mr. Miller and myself are really proud of these guys for going forth and putting out the extra effort to audition for these groups. Even the audition process itself and preparing that audition is above and beyond what these guys would do on a normal basis. So that group of kids that just stood up, I know they think they're sitting down already. We're not expecting necessarily to be recognized. They're awesome for going ahead and doing that. So round of applause for those guys. And I'm going to ask Joe Sasso to stand up. Adrian evidently is Joe Sasso's biggest fan. Joe Sasso was one of the first students at High School East in a very long time to audition for the All Shore Jazz Band, and he was accepted into the lab band, and I went and saw his concert, and it was fabulous. I know I'm a little bit biased because I'm dating the conductor of that band, but Joe had several solos, and he did an amazing job, so let's have a round of applause for Joe. The next number that we're going to play for you is entitled Fantasy on Yankee Doodle. It's exactly what you think it might be with that sort of a title of a name, Yankee Doodle. It takes the tune of Yankee Doodle, it mixes it around in several ways. It's actually a piece I played with Wes Defford's wind ensemble way back when I student taught. We're not going to talk about how long ago that was because it feels like it was just yesterday. But what I think is so cool about this piece is that there's a tuba solo. And how often do we get to feature the tubists in the band? I mean, the tuba players are always like, we need tubas, we need tubas. Every time a flute even looks at the flute wrong, and we're like, you can switch to tuba and you don't have to play the flute. So tubas are very important. A lot of times they don't get featured, even though they're one of the most important instruments in the band. So we actually have quite a few soloists. I'll announce them all at the end here, but definitely listen for the tuba because it's awesome. I always forget that I have to give it time to actually turn off. We have a list of soloists to go through. First was Tiana on tuba, so when I call your name, please stand up, guys. Then we had Brandon Burns on trumpet. Maisie Salt on oboe. Chris and Dylan on trombone and baritone / trombone. Jacob Bernstein on alto. And Miss Kaylee Rouse on bells. right, this next piece has a couple soloists as well, but I'm still going to introduce the piece while they get set up. The title of this piece is Just a Closer Walk with Thee, which those of you who maybe have attended church before recognize that it's a hymn. This is a hymn that's done in the style of a jazz funeral. So those of you who know, our band trip this year, we're going to New Orleans, which is awesome. And this is something that's really popular in New Orleans. So what would happen is, if you had a family member or a loved one who unfortunately passed away, you would march through the town, not necessarily take a car procession. You would march through the town and there would be a brass band that would follow you. And the brass band would start playing sad music to begin with because it's a funeral and you're mourning the loss of your loved one. And then eventually it would start to pick up a little bit and it would get jazzy and it would swing. And the idea is, as you're getting closer to the cemetery and you're laying this person to rest, it's something where you're celebrating their life, you're celebrating that you're sending them off to the afterlife, whatever their beliefs might be, but it's like a positive thing. You're looking back at the good parts of the life and not just mourning the loss of that person. So this is a really awesome chart that actually starts off, and it's exactly, if you've heard of Canadian brass, this is a transcription of the Canadian brass version. So we've got it starting off, it's nice and slow, it's kind of mournful sounding, and then it picks up and it's quite jazzy. It features the three people to my right, to your left, Gianna, Brandon, and Steve. Kind of give them a round of applause. They didn't really do anything yet, but... and you will see them kind of moving around about the stage, so don't let that take away from the music. Imagine that we're in that jazz funeral march. All right, here is Just a Closer Walk with Thee. that's what he says. Yay. You're awesome, and we're wild. So now, those of you who've never been to a high school East Band concert, we are going to take a short intermission while we break the stage and add in a ton more chairs and a ton more stands so we can bring the symphonic band down. So now would be a great time to use the bathroom or perhaps purchase a raffle ticket if you haven't done so yet, maybe. But we'll be right back with Mr. Miller and the symphonic band.
Good evening. As you heard earlier, I'm Mr. Miller. This is my first year teaching at High School East, and this is my first concert. And I couldn't have asked for a better group of kids. Honestly, I am honored to teach at my alma mater and conduct in front of the band that I graduated from. If you hadn't known that already, I am a recent graduate in 2012, High School East. Great group of kids. Honestly, they work hard, they're diligent workers, and they love music just as much as I do. All right, so we are, as much for myself, I'm sure I can speak for everyone on this stage when I say that we are excited to perform for you tonight. While we're here, let's give a hand for the wind ensemble one more time. All the wind ensemble members are also in symphonic band, so they are playing double the music tonight. Okay. That first piece was called "A Fanfare for a Festival" by Frank Erickson. That is your standard march-like fanfare, a little twist. All right. So the introduction, very march-like, very broad, right? You had that somber section in the middle where I'm going to shout out to our low brass over here. And they took over the melody in a fanfare-like style. And then in the end, we closed out with the same march from the beginning. That piece, a very, very sporadic piece to have for the opener. Very loud, very in your face. So that's why I chose that to be the opening one. Now we're going to dial it down a little bit. Piece by famous piano player Claude Debussy. This is a piece entitled "Girl with the Flaxen Hair." It is from his, I wrote this down. The title of it is, it's from his original piano works. Says, entitled, his first book of preludes. Can you imagine? I almost forgot that. It's 4 words. First book of preludes. Right. So, I'm pleased to display the other side of this organization, the more somber and mellow side. So here we go, "Girl with the Flaxen Hair." So, that one makes them sound like a totally different band. I love how the arranger of this piece was Douglas Akey. How he took the different timbres of the concert ensemble between brass and woodwind, the percussion, double reed, single reed, all from one single piano score. So all he had was one set of notes, and he orchestrated it into that arrangement. One of my favorite Debussy pieces to play. One of my favorite Debussy pieces to hear. Now I have a new favorite version to listen to. All right? We're going to close tonight's concert with a standard American march that you can go home and hum all night. It will be drilled into your brain, I promise. By the late, great John Philip Sousa, the Washington Post March. What a beast. That was a chop killer for sure. And I put it at the end, why not, all right? So, I hope you have a very safe night and a very, very great night, a very safe drive home is what I want to say. But, thank you for coming. Please follow us on Facebook. We do advertise our upcoming events. We're in the 21st century, where we have a Facebook and an Instagram. Get on it, okay? Follow us. We post. We're hip. Okay?